Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now it's been a few days since I last uploaded, but that's because a piece of my video software decided it was going to go completely tits up and stop working. So I've had to fight around to fix that, but we're back now. We're good to go. Now today we're going to be looking at a band that I am familiar with. In fact, I've covered them a couple of times on this channel already, and they are the band responsible for the intro music to my videos, a piece of music they wrote specifically for me as a thank you for when I reviewed one of their pieces of music, which was very, very nice of them. Anyway, we're looking at the band Laang. Now, like I say, I've covered them a couple of times before. Taiwanese post-black metal band. Now, I've mentioned on many, many occasions, anybody who's watched this channel for a considerable amount of time knows I'm very picky when it comes to black metal. I have very strong opinions on black metal. But Laang is one of the ones that I've always enjoyed. I've always quite enjoyed their music. Now, very recently, they released a new track called Baoyu, which, as I understand, means rainstorm. This is off their upcoming new album, the name of which I can't actually remember. But yeah, so I've been quite looking forward to this. You know, they've been building up to it on their Facebook page for quite some time, and I've been like, look, I can't wait to listen to this because I've really enjoyed all their music. So that's what we're doing today. Now, I do have a translation of the lyrics. They come directly from the band's Bandcamp page, so in theory they should be accurate, one would hope. But yeah, we'll just jump straight into this and see what we've got. So we've got Baoyu by Laang. Let's have a look. There we go. Baoyu by Laang. Laang. Anyway, it's another fantastic piece of music. There's something about the music by this band that just really sort of draws me in, because you've got that, what I would call typical black metal sort of guitar riffs going on, but there's everything in the background, all the sort of orchestral arrangement and stuff like that. Like, you got the sort of pianos and the violins, you know, the strings and stuff behind it, and that adds real depth to it for me, you know, because I know there's plenty of black metal bands that do have the orchestral element. For example, Hecate Enthroned, they have a lot of that, and I love Hecate Enthroned. But, you know, there's other black metal bands that just have like those very repetitive, long guitar riffs, which seem to be a pretty much standard throughout all black metal. But there's something about their music, this band's music, that really sort of draws me in, and it seems to bring an emotional weight with it as well, because whilst you read the lyrics to this song, you know, it's actually quite, I would say it's quite touching in a way, although pretty bleak and depressing. There's something about it, that music adds emotional weight to the actual lyrics of the song, and it makes it really quite beautiful and quite touching. You know, and, you know, the actual vocal style as well. You wouldn't necessarily say that that vocal style was necessarily black metal. I mean, there is black metal bands that have a similar vocal style, but it's not what I would call a standard or typical black metal vocal style, but it still sounds really, really good. Now, as you saw, it was a lyric video. It did have the English translation on the screen, which was great. I didn't know that. But I also have the lyrics here. Now, this one, I'm a little bit confused on this one. Or not confused, I just don't know which way to go on this one. Because when you read the lyrics, it sounds like someone resigning themselves to death, you know, just laying down and letting themselves die. But it also sounds like someone talking about the sadness that comes with the fact that they are dead. You know, there's a certain level of, you know, the sadness of their spirit or their soul or whatever, knowing that they are dead and there's nothing they can do about it. So that, you know, I get the impression it's a sort of balance between the two, you know, resigning themselves to death and then the sorrow of the fact that they are dead, possibly. So there aren't actually many lyrics to it. There's quite a lot of them that are repeated. It goes, "In bleak autumn mist, decay surrounds me, beautiful and morbid, grotesque and macabre. A hole is torn in the sky, and I begin to drown." So it kind of sounds like, you know, in the early morning of some autumn day, you know, decay surrounds me, beautiful and morbid. You know, to me, it sounds like someone laying down on a forest floor, you know, with all the plant life and possibly even animal life, you know, coming just before winter. You know, it's all decaying and, you know, that sort of thing. That's the immediate impression it gave to me as soon as I heard the song and read those lyrics. To me, it just sounded like someone laying on a forest floor, surrounded by, you know, the decaying nature just before winter comes along. You know, decay surrounds me, beautiful and morbid, grotesque and macabre. A hole is torn in the sky, and I begin to drown. So it just sounds like this person's walked out into the middle of this forest. This is the way I saw it in my mind when I read it. You know, it just sounds like this person's just walked out into the middle of the forest on an early autumn day, just laid down in like all the dying plant like flora and fauna, you know, just laying there staring at the sky, just waiting for the heavens to open, just waiting for rain to just come pouring down on him. It says, you know, there, you know, a hole is torn in the sky and I begin to drown. So like expecting a heavy rainfall or a rainstorm, as is the name of the song. And it goes, "The rain will pour endlessly." So, you know, it's a torrential downpour. "This story has no hero and no happy ending. As the water fills my lungs, I begin to smile." So again, this is like the guy resigning himself to death. You know, this story has no hero. There's no happy ending to this. You know, there's no way of coming out of this in a positive way. You know, there's no happy ending. You know, no matter how you live your life, you know, no matter how seriously you take your life, no matter what you do in life, we all leave the same way. You know, we all end up dying eventually, you know, and it's not a happy ending, you know. Anytime, you know, someone dies, there will always be people that are sad and mourning at your loss. You know, there's nothing, very little positive will actually come out of, you know, the death, you know. And, you know, as water fills my lungs, I begin to smile. Again, this sounds like him sort of resigning himself to death, you know, sort of being like, finally, my end is coming, you know, I'm going to be at peace, you know, I don't have to go through this horrible life anymore. You know, you know, there's not going to be any of this stress, there's not going to be any expectations upon me, you know, I'm not going to have to endure the painful memories I've had to live through, you know, he's finally sort of happy, resigned to the fact, like, yes, you know, I'm free now. Pouring from my corpse, the flood drowns the sun. Rivers and lakes form in the wake of my corpse. So pouring from my corpse, the flood drowns the sun. Not entirely sure about that, but, you know, pouring from a corpse, you know, maybe like his lungs are filled with water now, so it's all pouring out of his mouth. Possibly the flood drowns the sun. That could possibly suggest, like, you know, the flood sort of, as his body has drowned, you know, the sun has faded. Like, in other words, his eyes have closed, or, you know, because he's died, he can no longer see. That could be what it means. You know, it drowns the sun, it turns everything dark as he passes away. Rivers and lakes form in the wake of my corpse. Again, all of the water pouring out of his body as his lungs are now overfilled, and it's just pouring from him. Maybe, I don't know. Despite my birth and rebirth, my beating heart does not let me live. I'm not entirely sure about that bit. But then they repeated that bit. The story has no hero and no happy ending. As the water fills my lungs, I begin to smile. Then goes back to the, despite my birth and rebirth, my beating heart does not let me live. And that's sort of repeated about 3 or 4 times before the song comes to an end. So, you know, this, like I said, to me, it sounds like someone sort of accepting their death, you know, just sort of laying there and just waiting for it to happen and just letting it happen and being thankful for it. But there is also a certain level of melancholy in there as well. And like I said, the actual music, especially the orchestration behind the guitars and drums, really sort of add to it. You know, it sort of makes you feel that melancholy, because whilst the actual lyrics, like I said, are actually quite depressing, there's a certain beauty to the music when you actually listen to it, and it makes it quite an emotional piece of music. I really, really like it. And, you know, as I mentioned before at the beginning of the video, anybody who's watched this channel long enough knows that I have very strong and somewhat polarizing opinions on black metal. You know, some of it I really, really love, some of it I absolutely hate. You know, black metal is a very black and white subject for me, because, you know, some of it can be really great and some of it sounds like it's been produced in 3 different houses' bathrooms at the same time with nobody talking to each other. You know, so this is the sort of thing that I like. You know, it doesn't have that sort of overproduced, you know, crisp, clean sort of sound that some black metal bands have sort of fallen for. You know, they started out doing bathroom black metal, as I call it, and then they've gone into this super overproduced, insanely crisp sound. This is sort of just before that. This is like a black metal band that's become popular but doesn't want to sell out, sort of thing, if you know what I mean. You know, this is them at the sort of height of their power, as it were. You know, this is them at their best. But Laang has always been like that. They've always had a great sound, and I hope it continues to sound this good. Because, I mean, that piece of music was just amazing. Like I said, the orchestration really, really made that for me. It was absolutely wonderful. I really like it. A great piece of music. But I don't know what else I can say on that, so I'll leave that as it is. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribe, because it would really, really help me out. You know, I keep getting messages from people saying, oh, I've just found this video of yours, and, you know, I've been wanting to see you react to this piece of music for quite some time, and, you know, I'm getting this message like 3-4 months after the video's been released. You know, I'm still getting people mentioning an easy mill video that I did from quite a while back now. You know, people are going, oh my god, I didn't know you'd done this, you know. And it's just because, you know, my videos are just getting lost in the algorithm, you know, and, you know, people aren't liking and subscribing, and it sort of makes my videos disappear. So, you know, if you could like and subscribe, it would really, really help me out. It doesn't cost you anything, and it costs a fraction of a second, and it would really, really help me out. You know, as it is, only, I think, 9.5% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed. So, you know, it would really help me out if you could. But anyway, I'm going to leave that as it is. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.